Before I die, I want to make a difference. I managed to slip that irresistibly cheesy phrase during an interview once when asked why I do what I do, and it's followed me ever since. Yet, nothing rings more true to me. And I think if someone asked me that question today, I probably would have answered the same thing. I don't have to tell you of all the challenges that we're up against today. You know, we all know. And it can make me sad to know that we might not be taking care of the world we're living in the way we should, that we're creating the destruction that we are. But it also makes me very motivated, how grandiose that may sound. But for most of my life, I have felt all too ordinary while dreaming of greatness. When I was younger, I was on quite a straight path. Not a bad one, but a conventional, nicely paved one. I always looked at all of those other people. You know, the other people doing the awesome things. The young people with the visions, the knowledge. I ascribed them so many superpowers, but they were always them, the big them, and I was just the tiny me. I was good at dreaming, though. Imagine if we did this, or imagine if we did that. Until one day, someone close to me challenged that dream by saying, how about we actually do that? How about we actually do that? It was such a simple question, but to me, it gave me some really big realizations. The only difference between them, the people I admired so much, and me was that they had dared to take the leap, and I hadn't yet. So I decided to give it a try. Try to be a change maker. Fake it till you make it. And that realization opened up a lot of doors for me. Maybe the most impactful one was following my childhood dream and opening up my very own coffee shop and starting my own business. There are so many roads out there for all of us, not just the big beaten path, but smaller roads, winding roads. There's also the space between the roads. We just have to steer off the highway to explore that. And I think if we do, we're going to have so many more stories to tell. I think if we do, we go from being the inspired ones to being the inspiring ones. From being the people seeing and dreaming to being the ones actually doing. I have an idea of how I think we're going to change the world. And I think we're going to do it by small steps, one at a time. Hang on there, you might say. I've heard that that's actually a fallacy, that small steps can make us miss the big elephant in the room. And yes, that's true. Psychology tells us that taking small steps can use up all of our energy, so we miss taking the big and necessary ones. But I still believe in small steps. The trick is that we can never stop taking them. We always have to continue walking, placing ourselves within the zone of slight discomfort. And once we're comfortable with that, with the lifestyle that our last step has given us, then it's time to take the next one. For example, I'm very passionate about food. Ask my family, food is all we talk about. So a couple of years back, I decided I wanted to start eating more sustainably. The way I eat today, some people would call extreme. I eat local, seasonal, plant-based. Too radical, some may say, but for me, taking small steps at a time, it's just everyday way of eating. Nothing strange. But I would never expect someone who's used to eating whatever imported food is in the supermarket, to eating far away farmed meat, to eat the way I do overnight. No, because to them, maybe just having one plant-based meal a week takes a lot more effort than it takes for me to eat plant-based all year round. So that brings me to the second thing about small steps, which is we have to take into consideration where it is that we start walking, because that's different for all of us. So we take that into consideration, where we start and the effort that a step might take. But we can never stop. I say it again, we can never stop taking those steps. They don't have to be big. They can't be too uncomfortable, because then we won't want to take them. But whether it's in our personal lives, in our companies, we have to continue taking small steps to breaking the norms. Because each step makes us more radical, and one day we'll wake up and realize that we're a lot more radical than we ever thought we would be starting off. So where can these small steps take us? Well, let me ask you a question. What is it that everyone around you is doing wrong? Or to put it in a more positive light, what is it that could be done so much better? What is it that you could do so much better? In which areas are you the radical? I've already told you about the small steps I took in my personal life to start eating more sustainable. I've told you about how I followed my dream and opened up my own coffee shop. So I've always been an avid coffee shop goer. So I can absolutely tell you that there are a lot of cafes out there serving delicious food and delicious pastries. The question I asked myself was, why is no one going outside of the boundaries, doing something different? Why is no one cooking the way I'm cooking for myself? Why is no one taking sustainability seriously within this area? Is it because it's too expensive to serve organic local food in a coffee shop? Too expensive for the business to sustain itself? Is it because the customers would think it too boring just to have seasonal produce on the menu? Yet no one had ever said that the way I cook was boring. So I figured I'd found my challenge. I'd found my niche. And thus, we decided to start our own coffee shop, serving sustainable local food from small producers. And turns out, 4 years later, that having root vegetables on a sandwich in the middle of the winter is a lot cheaper than imported tomatoes. Turns out you can make great pastries using Swedish organic canola oil instead of butter with a lot lower impact. And yellow peas, farmed outside of Kristianstad, are both cheaper and better for the environment than a piece of beef. And here we are, 4 years later, and I'm living my dream. Someone close to me, an acquaintance rather, told me a couple of weeks back, you have to stop all of this plant-based stuff. You have to start using butter and eggs, baking properly. I was like, I didn't even have an answer that day. I was too shocked. Did he mean I was not doing what I'm doing properly? Can I not bake and cook properly? Our customers didn't seem to mind, on the contrary. There are so many norms around us. We have to look at them closely and see which ones are actually very unnecessary. And those are the ones we have to start challenging, start breaking. I want you all to think about, where in your lives are you the radical? Where are you the one that's kind of pushing the boundaries? I bet you there is some area. And that's where I want you to be the change maker. Because we need radical change makers to have radical change. For a long time, I've been trying to be the perfect environmentalist, do everything, make the maximal difference, until I realized that I can make the biggest difference within the areas where I feel passionate. Because think about it, it's usually within the areas where you feel passionate that you have taken the most small steps. It's within those areas where you are the radical. So that's where you should dig. That's where you should make a difference. Some people would say, I'm working in coffee. I could claim I'm working within sustainability. Because a customer coming into our cafe, buying a lunch and a coffee, they're lowering their climate impact. They're supporting a small-scale coffee producer by drinking the coffee that we serve. And sure, it's just making a difference on a local level, on a small scale, but it still is making a difference, and that's sustainability to me. Someone once likened the climate crisis to the Lord of the Rings. You and I, we're Frodo and Sam. And the crisis itself, that's the bad guy. And I quite liked this metaphor, because we can all choose in this story if we want to be on the side of the heroes or on the side of the bad guys. I know I want to be on the hero's side. Frodo could have easily stayed in the Shire, eating multiple meals of food a day, taking it easy. It took courage to leave. In the same way that it takes all of us courage to maybe step off that highway and make a difference in our lives. But step by step, they continued towards their goal. Even though it might have been hard, they took one step at a time. We can all choose our stories, and we can all choose to be the heroes within them. I think our story is our context. It's where we dig to make a difference. And I believe that if we just take small steps, one at a time, the day we die, we'll have made a difference.